What's up, guys? In today's episode of Atomic Talks, I'm sitting down with Will, a bodybuilder, personal trainer, and one of the most positive, high-energy people you'll meet in the gym. In this conversation, we dive deep into everything from PED use, training philosophy, diet, mindset, and how fitness has shaped his life. Will is the kind of guy that hypes people up and makes the gym a better place just by being there, and I was really grateful to have the opportunity to sit down and talk with him. If you guys enjoy the video, make sure to give it a like and throw down a comment in the comment section for me, and subscribe to the channel.
Make this quick.
All right, cool. I'm here with Will, bodybuilder and trainer here at Storms Fitness. So let's get right into it, man.
Yeah, for sure.
How long have you been lifting for?
So the official is 5 years. That's what I say, like, for the seriousness of it all. But obviously, I've been in a gym since I was about 18, 19. So we'll say about 20 years.
Dang, okay. 20 years of experience.
Yeah.
And did you play any sports before you got into lifting?
No. I mean, I played baseball when I was younger. My girlfriend, actually, we laugh about this because, you know, people assume that I'm just some natural athlete. And, like, I actually, in middle school, I took band to avoid PE. So,
really?
Yeah. So that's how athletically inclined I am. Is, you know, I was a band nerd. I literally decided to do band over fit or PE, which, so yeah, no sports. I think when I really got into fitness was when I wanted to be, I thought I wanted to join the military, so I started running a lot. And then I heard, I got this thing about APD, and whenever I went to do their little tests, I started doing push-ups, went to a weight room there at the UNMVC, kind of messed around, and that's kind of my first intro. Like, my brothers always were older than me, had weight sets and stuff like that that I messed around on, but officially that's kind of where I started and why I got into, I guess, essentially fitness.
Yeah, okay, that's interesting. So you didn't even do, like, any sports in high school or anything?
No, no high school sports. Actually, I didn't even finish high school.
Really? Okay.
Yeah.
So how'd you end up at the VC? Did you go to, like, a...
So yeah, no. So I didn't finish. So I had a kid very young, at 15 years old. Well, not me, obviously, but my daughter came around 15. I got my GED around 16, 17. So I started going to the VC around 17, 18 years old.
Cool. So that was the first gym you went to then?
Yeah. That was one of the first ones next to Main Street over there, across the way the other guys. But yeah, that's kind of where my first start became, like, and I mean, it's essentially like a glorified hotel gym. So
yeah,
I mean, even at that saying, like, that's why I said for serious 5 years, but it's been kind of like that for then.
Yeah, okay. So you kind of got your intro over there at the VC gym, and then fast forward to now and you're doing bodybuilding. What made you decide on bodybuilding over other sports, I guess? Like, why not powerlifting? Why not CrossFit kind of thing? But what gravitated you towards bodybuilding?
And so it's you know, to be completely honest, I want the pretty muscle. I used to always joke, actually, Joe, he's right outside there. I've known Joe for about that 20 years. It's when I started at Main Street. Joe worked at the front desk, worked the juice bar there. And I remember one day me and him were having a conversation. I was like 19, 20 years old. He was like 17. And I turned to Joe. We were talking about bench pressing. And Joe was talking about how much a guy benched or something. The conversation was bench pressing. And all I remember saying, and he reminded me of this, was, I don't want to bench 405. I just want to look like I bench 405. And he brought that to my attention years later when we were here at Storms. But I was like, yeah, that is kind of my motivator, is, you know, and if it's vain, if someone else takes that off as something like that, whatever, you know, it's fine. What I always tell people is it's not necessarily bodybuilding. I enjoy trying to look like a superhero. Or nice, like, yeah. You know, like when they were talking about the new movie with Deadpool and Wolverine, and they talked about how his name just slipped my head, Hugh Jackman, how he was portraying an unattainable body image for men and males, and I was like, that made me feel good because, well, I was like, well, it's not necessarily unattainable, so, you know, I think that's kind of why I do it, is just for, you know, the little kid in me that just likes the action figures and stuff. But the intent was never bodybuilding, though. it's kind of funny the way I actually like, we're going to fast forward 5 years ago. And that's why I say seriously for 5 years, because a lot happened in those 15 years to where I gained a lot of weight. Sorry, I lost touch with the gym. I gained the better part of, I don't know how much I originally weighed, but I actually ended up weighing close to 300 pounds. And there's one day, I quit drinking. I was a really severe alcoholic, like just completely just off the hinges, hospitalized type, almost on the streets type alcoholic, not just party too much, but what's going to happen with this dude. And then I quit drinking, and it was about 2 or 3 years into my sobriety when I was like, well, you're sober, but are you actually sober? Are you living healthy? You're still poisoning yourself. So then I went to a family hike. We were going to have this hike, and that was when I went to it was Tent Rocks here in New Mexico.
Yeah.
Have you ever been there? It's like
I haven't been there, but I've seen it on people's social media quite often.
Yeah, it's like 30 minutes above Albuquerque, and right between Albuquerque and Santa Fe. Anyways, it's been closed for a couple years, ironically, so I haven't had my little celebration that I need. But anyways, Tent Rocks, it's a 1.7 mile hike. Little children and grandmothers do it. That day, I could not complete that hike, man. I still even get chills when I say that, because it was so disappointing that day. Just so disappointing that I could not complete that. Like, this guy that used to go running, used to be a gym rat and all this stuff, and now I can't even just do a simple walk on a 1.7 mile hike. Like, come on. And so that was in September. That was actually a Labor Day weekend, and I started getting my ass in shape, and I started with yoga. And that's what I love to tell people. Not like, oh, I hit the weights and I just, this is who I was. And no, it started with DDPY. That's Damien Dallas Page Yoga.
Yeah, I've actually heard of that just because my mom's actually done that before.
Oh yeah, dude, it's so good for not only like what yoga's benefits are for just range of motion and stretching and all that, but it also helps you lose weight. So that's where I started. I started just really focusing on diet, and I forced myself to do that. And then I started at Planet Fitness. And I kind of graduated from there, like in a sense that like I was lifting weights. There was just a lot of people there, and I just could not find my groove there. And that's when I slowly found my way here. And again, when I remember, and I was thinking this the other day, I walked in and I was like, dude, it's not about how much you can lift. Just go in there and lift with super strict form, almost like you're sarcastic with it, and just lift. And that's what I did. And this is the origin story of like how the bodybuilding happened. Is one day it was just Mike and I in here, good old Mike Storms, and I walked up to Mike and I was like, I know what I'm doing, but what do I do? And he sent me this program that he has in his phone that he sends to everybody, and it's like either do it or not. And that's pretty much the end of that. Like really, after that, this is what you see. Like I hit the ground running, and I started dieting harder. Like I'd already lost a lot of weight, but then I was like, okay, well, and then just something clicked in me, and and I kind of blame Mike for all this actually, now that I'm, trickling down on it, because he was the one like, well, try this diet, see how that does. Try this cut, see how that does. Okay, well, why don't you go get your personal license or your personal training certification? Make some extra money here and there. Here I am, a personal trainer. Then he was like, I did a bodybuilding show. We're all kind of bodybuilding here. And he's all, bodybuilding takes about 5 years. And before I know it, here we are. Here I am, a bodybuilder. Like,
so it's kind of started. So Mike kind of
he was the catalyst.
The catalyst for it. Wow, that's really cool. That is really cool.
Yeah.
I forgot last time that Mike's the guy on the wall here. I'll kind of frame up real quick just to show that.
Yeah.
I never really showed that in the last.
Good old Mike Storms right there.
Yes, sir.
Yeah, that's the guy responsible for my bad bodybuilding habit.
Okay.
Yeah, I know. It's been great.
What's the next show you're prepping for? And how's the prep going, or do you have or not in prep yet?
So that's interesting. I'm glad you asked that, because like it's hard for me to say. Like I do have a show that I have in mind. I'm probably not going to compete in it, but right now I'm. It's hard to say I'm prepping, because I want to develop more of my physique. So technically, I am working towards a show, but there's not a specific show. If there is a specific show that I'm going to throw out there, it'd probably be the New Mexico Open. out in the end of November. They always have it in November here in New Mexico. That's the one I've competed for in the last 2 years. Placed fourth both times. It's weird. Same competitor numbers, same placing. It's weird, but it is what it is. And so that's why I decided I'd take the better part of this year to really build up my physique. Then try to, because I'm only about, last time I weighed, I'm about 12 pounds over my stage weight. So I'm trying to maintain around 5 pounds of between stage weight because, well, I also do want to have another new stage weight. So it really is a development season. By the time July, August comes, I'll have more of like a solid answer for that. So in short, yes, I'm prepping for a show, but I don't know what show it is just yet.
That makes perfect sense. Yeah. And so Mike was the one that kind of got you into training to begin with. Mm-hmm. And so you have like one of the most impressive physiques here at this gym.
Thank you.
And like, would you say that helps you get clientele? Does that kind of boost your credibility to your clients, you think, or is it almost irrelevant? I think
it's more irrelevant than I would put on. If you're asking me personally to analyze it, I'm not gonna sit here and be like, act like it's intimidating, but I think it would be a little intimidating to clientele, thinking that my exercises are going to be a lot more intense than they expect. I think that they see me and they're like, okay, this guy is serious fitness. I don't want to look like that. I don't want to be that big, or I don't want to like focus that much or obsess over my muscles or my meals that much. And it's hard for me to be like, no, wait, this is what I do personally. This is my personal hobby. What you're trying to do and what you're doing is your goal. And I know how to get you there. And sometimes it does help. Like, with younger guys and stuff, I think that it really helps motivate them to see that there is obtainable results on the other side of that. Regardless of what we're doing, they see that that's possible. And I think they kind of take more validation from my information rather than just some guy that has a basic physique.
Yeah, so it's kind of like a double-edged sword in a way, where it intimidates some of the maybe the less serious gym goers, but motivates those that are kind of like wanting to take that next step up.
Exactly. And from what I see on the internet, I think the way a lot of people view it is you want to have an in-shape personal trainer. Like I hear a lot of people talk about an overweight personal trainer not being able to hack it. Hey, look, I mean, God forbid it happens, but if I gain another 50 pounds, I wouldn't like for people to think that I lost all my knowledge. But
yeah, okay, I see what you mean.
Yeah, you know what I mean? Like if I decided, you know what, well, this physique is cool and all, but the discipline isn't for me, but if other people want to know it, that's cool. I'm not saying that's what I'm going to do, but that's the way I look at it. I kind of look at it with a grain of salt in that sense of, I see what people mean when they're like, okay, I don't want a fat personal trainer, but in a sense that, that doesn't accumulate to knowledge either.
Yeah. Whenever I was in college, I used to see some of my teachers that were teaching like exercise physiology classes and stuff, and they just looked like they'd never really worked out before. And sometimes, like at least at that time, it would sometimes like diminish their credibility to me.
Yeah.
But at the same time, looking back at it, they might have just been studying the physiology behind all of it this whole time, and even if they didn't have the physique to show for it necessarily, they still had probably a lot of knowledge that wasn't necessarily experiential. But
and the pendulum of that is, I like I said, I like to say things with a grain of salt, but then also defend the other side and saying that I do see some personal trainers that, like, when you ask me, have you have an athletic background? No, I don't. And I think guys that come in with an athletic background kind of have that disadvantage of not knowing the struggles of somebody who hates physical activity, somebody who does not want to be on a diet, somebody who does not care about being ripped, and it's hard because they have a different motivation. And I've seen trainers who have gained a little weight and then they're like, oh, look, I've gone from here and I've gone skinny. I was like, dude, I've known you and you didn't even gain that much weight. You still had abs when you gained weight. And now you're saying, look at me, I'm all shredded now. This is how I did it. And I was like, you don't know the struggles of these people. Like, yeah, I can talk sciences with you. I can talk the science of conditioning somebody for soccer. Mm-hmm. Right? I can go and I know what to do to condition somebody for soccer. However, I've never played soccer. Okay. So for me to go and tell somebody, well, yeah, this is what we're going to do. I can strength train you. I can condition you. But now when it comes to like actually talking soccer, I'm like, I've never been in those shoes. I know that you can breathe better. I know that your cardiovascular health's better. I know your legs are a lot stronger. That might equate to you being a better soccer player, but there might be a little bit more instruction in there. There might be a little bit, when I was a soccer player, it's kind of the same with me meal prepping. I tell people, yeah, go home and make this meals. And I'm like, I forget that some guys, I coach all kinds of different people, but like I forget that younger guys especially don't really know how to cook, or even just people in general. And when I'm like, cook this chicken, it's like, oh yeah, chicken and rice equals this, but it equals something else in my mind. I know how to get them. Okay, well, I know chicken and rice sucks. Don't make it bland. Here, this is how I do it. This is how it gets me eating it every day. This is how I stay consistent. It's not like, oh yeah, this is the science behind it. No, this is me, how a human being lived through it and worked through it.
Yeah, that makes a lot of sense. And especially since you, as you mentioned, you kind of went through that little period with the alcohol and also gaining the weight. So you have experience, I guess, with some of the things that some people might have gone through a similar experience like that. And I've noticed you're always like hyping people up, making them laugh and stuff like that. Is that just who you are? Or is that something you kind of cultivated, or is that just kind of like a personality thing for you?
It kind of is just a goofy personality thing. And one thing is, I just want people to feel accepted. It's not even just the gym culture here, because here at Storms, dude, it's the vibe here is amazing. Like I can't ever get that over enough. Like I go to other gyms and I'm just like, they have the equipment, but there's just something in the air. And I think when you're more, because it sucks, like even me, somebody who does this for a living, somebody who likes doing this, the gym is not fun all the time. Sometimes it is work, and sometimes I think a lot of times people think that they're being judged, which isn't the case. If somebody's judging you, they need to focus on themselves and work out. But I think, me just trying to make people feel welcomed here, because I'm a weird guy. So like, there's a lot of times I never felt like welcomed, or I felt outcasted in groups or something like that. I feel like if we create that kind of environment where people feel that they can grow in, then obviously, and if you look around this gym, like I like to brag about like how goal oriented and how striving everybody in this gym is. It's not just me, it's not just Mike, it's not just, a select few. It's like I said, when you come into this gym, there's a different vibe. And I think it's because we all support each other, and that just in return, that could be a selfish endeavor, because if we have a cool environment, it makes it easier for you to it's not this hostile gym environment we walk into where it's like, okay, what am I walking into now? Or are we all just going to know each other today? I think if we push each other along in turn, like other people push me. I mean, I came in here the same way. I didn't come in here a muscular dude. I came in here a 286-pound guy, and I know how people feel. Like I'd get nervous before I came to the gym. Like I'd legit get super nervous, and I don't know why, but it's I don't want to say it's a scary experience, but being in this gym, and especially we got to always remember, like, people are trying to change their lives here, and if they're not a bodybuilder, if they're not a power lifter, if they're not some elite athlete, they're still in here doing something better for themselves. And all they need, you never know if that's all they need to hear. Like, you see a bigger guy in here, and he's just, most people look at him and say, oh, he's not doing much, but all he needed to hear was like, oh dude, you're doing awesome, keep going. And then that might light the fire under his ass, that one day he comes to you and you say, dude, remember that one day like 3 years ago you told me I was doing great? Yeah, look at me now, like I look amazing because of you. Like, stuff like that happens, and it's not a pat on the back, but I think because I was there, I was getting those compliments, and I think that's what kept me going. Yeah. And this gym culture kind of like ingrained into me. It was a little bit of my goofiness, like, because you'll see me yelling and screaming. I think my personality, I'll sing and stuff, but I think the whole hyping people up is just a part of this place too.
Yeah, I think it feels especially good coming from the Jack guys like you and Mike and all that, because like, I've been lifting here and stuff like that. Whenever you guys give a compliment, and it's like, it means more than it does. I mean, not more, I guess, but in a way it does mean more coming from a guy that looks like you guys. Looks all jacked like you and Mike kind of thing. And if you're up for it, we can kind of switch gears a little bit into the PEDs.
Oh, pun.
Yeah.
Nice little pun there. Yeah, let's go. Let me get some water.
So you've been open about using PEDs with me before. Would you be comfortable sharing your current stack, I guess?
Yeah. Right now, I'm about 17 days into my current stack. I just started a new one. I was cruising at a TRT dose, well, a little above TRT dose. Let me just put the little thing out there. I never try to condone my steroid use and say like TRT in a good way of that I'm using it as a treatment. It's abuse. Like I abuse steroids, but just putting that out there, because I don't ever try to sugarcoat what I'm doing. And but with my current cycle, it's actually I was tapering upwards towards. I started at the TRT dose, or actually, again, sorry, not TRT dose, but it was a cruising dose of 250 milligrams a week. I did that post show, so did that for about 4 months. Was feeling pretty good again. Got my tests, got everything going good again, and then so now, 17 days ago, I brought equipoise back into it. So I raised my test up to 500, brought in equipoise to, doing math, 400. And then from there now, my goal was to go up to what I'm at now was 750 test, 500 equipoise, to 600 equipoise. It's at 600 equipoise. And I wanted to stay there and see, because I've never gone this heavy on the dose. Last year, I did this cycle, but I did kind of like about half the dose, if not less, and about almost a quarter, third, if I remember right. And so with this, I just want to see that, like I said, this is a development one. So I'm going about 16 weeks with this. At the end, I'm not going to throw anything in until about the end. The end, I'll probably go with some Anadrol, just from fun strength gains. The equipoise should put on some good strength. It usually does for me. So I'll work up with that. Like I said, I don't think I'm going higher in the dose. This is where I wanted to work. This is where I planned to reach to. I just want to stay at this for about the 16 weeks in this bulk. And then after that, I think it's going to be Masteron, but we'll see what blood work and the results say.
Yeah, okay. So it's a lot based off of getting the blood work and then telling what you're going to do next kind of thing?
Kind of, yeah. The blood work's important just to basically see, especially like with equipoise, I'm going to be producing a lot more like red blood cells. So like I'm going to definitely want to keep that under control. Checking my blood pressure and everything. For me, my cycle is going to basically go what season I'm in. Right now, for me, if you get to know me personally, really, like anybody, I hate calling anything a bulk. I'm like, we're always building muscle when we're not cutting. Like, like when people say bulk, they want to get fat. They want to eat all the bad foods. But for me, a bulk means changing types of drugs. Necessarily you can do either or. You can either bulk or cut on them. But I typically like my equipoise for this. So that's why we're kind of calling it a bulk. I'm eating near maintenance, going into a little deficit with cardio, but nothing too extreme. So once we see what that does, and then I like Masteron because the drying effects, and just I really like Masteron, so that's why I'm going to work back to that after we go through this little phase. So yeah, really it just depends on the phase. Once I get there, blood work, and then how fat I am. Like, so that's so to put it into perspective. So like on this one, go the 16 weeks, watch myself, try to watch my body weight, still trying to not cut on it, but stay lean out. Again, I'm trying to stay within range of my stage weight. When July, I don't know the exact date. In July, that's when we're going to run a test again. And depending on my body fat, depending on the way I look, that's probably where we'll make the decision of when and where.
Yeah. And like, I'm kind of ignorant when it comes to the names and the numbers. So like the Equipoise and then Monster Dome, you said, or Mastron. And was there another one that you named? Anadrol. Okay. So what would be like the difference whenever you take these? And just kind of, you said one is like a drying, Mastron's like a drying one or something like that.
Yeah, I won't get too far into like, but like, so Equipoise, I always laugh to call it the horse drug because, I mean, Equipoise. That one is an older, popular one, and mostly, and again, I don't believe that any kind of drug is used for bulking or cutting even more so. It's just really diet. But like we tend to use it more in the bulking seasons because it helps with strength gains and a little bit of size. It does produce a lot more red blood cells, and it helps lower the estrogen potentially. The Anadrol that I mentioned that I would throw at the end of this one is actually an oral, and that one you can only really cycle for 4 to 8 weeks, and that one it kind of comes into the powerlifting community a lot more because of the strength gains it gives. It's just the strength gains are just amazing off that. And then Mastron, I need to get better at my profiles, but Mastron, that one we tend to like it for the drying effect, and that one's a really safe one. I know people that are constantly running it almost year round. A lot of compounds you don't want to run more than 12 to 16 weeks. I know some people take their Equipoise longer because of its long half-life. But other than that, I think like Mastron, it's so good. A lot of all these though, we're all using with a test base. Okay. There's always brought in a test base. I like to keep my test higher. Again, it's all individual. You know, that's kind of like why we like to be open about it. And I'm not like, I'm kind of for me, I don't want people to find out like, oh yeah, he's taking this and that. And it's like, and then they go take that. And it really is, you got to be open with it because you want other people to come and be open about it. Like if they want to take it, you can't have them just go and secretly start taking something that they don't know how to dose. They just heard a dose online. And my point being is everyone's different, and it's good to get with somebody who is real knowledgeable. Yeah. And that can be like, you know, there's a lot of actually good information online now, as opposed to before when I was younger and like would look into like, just, you know, you kind of get the wild hair. Okay, where's steroids? And you just go ask the weird old dude at the gym that looked like he did them or something. But now it's more available than it's ever been. And with the positive is there's more information about it now. There's more older guys that have done it for years and have more information. So I think that's why people need to be open about it. And I think that's why, like, if some dude wants to use, he needs to be open about it and not just go and start using, actually be like, okay, what do I do? And most times it's just like, do some tests. Okay. You know, like when we start talking all these, I mean, all these compounds and stuff are nice and all, but if you're not going to compete, if you're not really trying to look like a freak, test, you know, and I'm not condoning steroid use at all by this, but I think tests, you know, gets people a lot further than what they think it does, what hard work really does take you. Because, you know, a lot of people think more and more and more compounds, and you know, I always believe on the lines, less is more. Okay. And are there any compounds that you wouldn't recommend? Tren. Okay. Really? Tren, yeah. I know it's a popular one right now, and me, I tried it. I didn't. Yeah, I think I'm allergic. I broke out in hives. I just did not like it. Really? There's permanent. So, like, you know, all the stigma behind steroids and their the mental effects and, you know, the aggression. It's all horseshit. But when you get to like Tren, like that's when you really, really start getting the actual noticeable, permanent, like, cognitive effects, male aggression, anxiety, just people report. Well, the one thing that scared me, and this is stupid, but insomnia. I guess it's not fearing insomnia is not scared, but that's something that Mike mentioned, was that you'd wake up. He said he did it only for his last show for the first time, I think. Yeah, if I remember right. And that he would just wake up in the middle of the night, and it would be like he just sweating. Yeah.
said he'd be like just not able to go back to sleep. It wasn't the same as caffeine. He said it was just like
Yeah, no, it's so weird because that's what I had tried for my last. A lot of times we use Tren because I mean it is. I hate to say this, but it is one of those. Tren does what people think steroids do, but when you get something that's that good, there's a cost to it, and Tren makes you pay that cost. And for me, I started for my last prep and show, and we were trying it, and every time, I mean, for one thing, most oils that I have, except for the Equipoise test now that I have, they're clear. Tren looks like dehydrated piss. And when I was putting it in, it hurt. But for me, that was, I think that there was something in it that my body was just rejecting. Because then I was breaking out in hives. And that was with the only thing I've ever put in me. Like, that's the only time I've ever had that. Thankfully, I didn't get any of the bad, side effects yet. But that's why, that's why we always suggest if somebody does do Tren, they do Tren acetate, because that one is quicker in your body, quicker out. So if you start having those nasty side effects, you can just take it out right away. Again, I would never suggest anyone do Tren. I think that's why we like Masteron so much. It has a safer, almost little to no side effects other than what you would expect from steroid use. I tend to lose hair off of it after a long use of it, but other tthan that, there are some harder compounds out there, like Anadrol, but those ones people should take responsibility, and within the 4 weeks, it really doesn't affect you. Tren, they have long-lasting effects, especially with these people that take them. I don't know. There's these young guys that are taking this stuff year-round, and I'm like, dang, no. I don't know why. I get why Tren's popular, but I don't get why Tren's popular.
Yeah, it's almost gotten to the popularity point where you got people calling themselves the Tren twins and stuff like that.
Yeah, I see shirts in it, and I make the jokes and stuff too, and I'm like, and I make the joke to my girlfriend. I was like, for a guy that hates Tren and can't do it, I make a lot of Tren jokes. But it is a popular thing. You see it on shirts, you see it on everything, and you see it in memes. And I think it's just because we kind of put a name to and I think it just sounds cool, like it goes with things, I know why it's gotten its popularity. I mean, you got these influencers that just overdose on it, and I know personally people that were tolerating it, and they just got massively huge and shredded. So it does do what it does, but at a cost. So,
and I've heard things. I can't remember who is mentioning to me right now, but that it's like the only one that crosses the blood-brain barrier.
Yes.
So is that why it has those cognitive effects that last long?
Yeah, the lasting and irreversible effects. And that's the first time I've ever heard, given the enlarged heart and all that stuff, but that are irreversible effects. Because you got testicular atrophy. That I think that's the number one thing that scares everyone. Every guy, they've always, back in the day, they used to always tell you your stuff was going to shrink, and with steroids, it makes your testicles shrink. However, that when you get off the stuff, they go back to the normal size. They just atrophy because you're not using it. The same thing would happen if you don't use your legs.
Yeah.
But with Tren, it has cognitive effects that are just irreversible. Some of the worst things I've heard is people just at the end, when people talked about roid rage, they explain their experience with Tren. That's where okay, that sounds like roid rage. And, because I never experienced that. I've never, of course we all get mad. We all kind of get a little irritable, but I've never gotten into a point where I've been I'm just raging, breaking shit and throwing shit. But again, there's that, pop names out there. He's been popping up on my feed, but Trenzilla, That dude, like
I haven't even heard of this guy.
this dude, his videos are insane, and that's exactly what I think, what I picture with Trent when people do it. And he's deadlifting like 500 pounds, but he's punching himself and throwing his belt after, and
Whoa.
just bleeding and screaming, breaking shit in the gym, just like the Trent twins, kind of.
Yeah.
And I'm like, okay, yeah, that's it, because I've never done that. And I think that's just what I'm grateful for.
I do wonder if in Larry Wheels' like older videos, whenever he would finish a lift and just be like, like I wonder if that was influenced by anything, because I don't see him doing that anymore on his videos necessarily, but it might be just because he's kind of switched to bodybuilding now.
And it could be just because that's what got his likes.
Yeah,
Larry
that's
Wheels,
a good point.
He's a kind of gimmick kind of guy. But you never know that. It all could be it's the chicken or the egg too. Like, does he do it because of the trend, or does he do it because,
That's a good point. Yeah. And then at what point in your lifting journey did you decide to get into them, I guess, to start taking PEDs in general?
It was a couple years in. And so the first PEDs that I took were actually, what are those things called? MK 67, but SARMs. I could not think.
Okay.
SARMs. So yeah, I started taking SARMs, and a lot of guys want to argue that that's not a PED, and it really is. It helps develop receptors and stuff. So that was like one of the first ones I took, and I started seeing results off of. However, that just kind of helped me with the hunger and muscle growth. That's PEDs. When I actually first started with actual like steroids, it was the fall, and I remember I started because I was hitting like not necessarily plateaus, but I was hitting just workouts, and I was working out past points of where I was like, okay, this is me really exceeding a certain point. And that's when I started, okay, well, what if we hit the NOS? Like we're doing pretty good. What if we add a little bit more spice to the mix? And that's when it was just, like I said, just jumped on test. And after that, and I don't know, it's, for me, if looking back on it, if I could go back, because like right now I'm like, oh, why did I take it? When did I take it? And that's kind of what I don't like about it. Like if you ask if I ever regret it, or that
was actually my next question. Yeah.
Yeah, no, that's a rough question for me. I don't regret it. Would I've liked to see where I'm at naturally now? Yeah, because I think I haven't grown much in size. I think I've gotten bigger, but like going back theoretically, I was happy with the way I looked, and I don't regret it. Like I don't want to say, oh, I love using steroids, but I kind of really do enjoy it. It's a fun journey. But looking back, I wish I would have done it more responsibly in the beginning, because right now I don't have an answer for you. Why did you do it? I don't know. I felt like I was at the end of my limit naturally. Was that the case? Did I calculate it? Do I have the metrics to tell you that? Do I have the proof to, to me, yeah, I was hitting diets hard and I was hitting my workouts hard. But if I go out to that gym and I ask anybody that, they're going to tell you that too. Mm-hmm. They're not going to be like, well, maybe I could go a little harder before I try some steroids. Like, no, like everybody's just like antsy to get on it and antsy to see what they're going to do for them. And I think that was my thing. And I think that will be my tip is, if you're going to get on them, don't just do them because they're fun and cool, or do you think it's going to get you somewhere that you're not, because again, I don't regret doing them, because I'm like, oh, what if I could have got this naturally? But I think I was doing really good naturally, like, or just eating and weights so well that when I started doing them, that I can't tell you that, like, if you're just some guy that went in and ate McDonald's every day and you start taking a bottle test and coming in and hit the weights, what would it do for you? Because for me, it was kind of already something going, so mm-hmm. Like, how much did it help me? Well, I don't have the metrics there to show you. Did it help me? Yeah, potentially, yes. The research is out there. Some people are hyper responders. People respond better than. Did I respond really good? Did I respond better than I think I did? Or did I not respond? I don't have the data to show for that, and it's really not a problem. That's kind of the nerd in me showing, like, that's why I say, oh, you don't call it a bulk because you're always trying to gain muscle, and you don't build 5 pound of muscle overnight. It's, you got to tell me, like, okay, how are we weighing ourselves dry? How are we weighing ourselves this? Like, you have to have a control. You have to have, okay, what's really working here? And for me, I just kind of jumped on them. I think right then, when I did, I wasn't like in a serious prep. I wasn't in a serious thing. I think we had just gotten done with this competition that we had here, and I want to say the ego in me was saying, oh, you're working out so hard. You're at the limit of what you can do naturally. You can go. But again, was I? But would I do them again? Yeah. And I would plan out my cycle. I would calculate everything a lot more. I would write. I know a lot of people don't write this stuff down, but here's what I'm saying. We got to be more honest about this in a community that does this. Back in the day, I think a lot of people used to deny, like, the old mic-herns. I call them the mic-herns of this, because it's like you're not getting anywhere. When people know you're using them and you're lying, you're not helping anyone. When you're being completely honest, and especially yourself. Like, if you're writing this down, like, okay, 2 weeks ago I started this. A week after that, I bumped up to this. I bumped up. I took out. I weighed this. I weighed that. Just following those. That's when you're doing this stuff responsibly, and not just like, well, it's cool. Like, I saw Trent on TV or on TV. Hold on, man. I saw Trent on the TV. Yeah. But people, like, again, Trent's popular. So a lot of people, a lot of guys, they're not going to be like, well, 2 years from now, after I'm working out hard and I've got this natural physique, I'm going to try some Trent. No, like, they're like, dude, I see these guys getting huge and jacked off Trent. Trent does it for me. I want Trent. And that's like, okay, this is where we got to be honest. Like, no. It's not, people that think, I've seen dudes on gear, and that's another thing, is I don't want people thinking that gear does magic things. You see people on gear, and they look like trash. So it's like, there's a lot to think about it, and that's why I'm like, man, I wish I could have been like, yeah, dude, I was going to start my first bodybuilding show, and, my blood work was this, my testosterone level was that, and I may have gotten a test, I think, after the fact or before, I forget, but I would have liked to be more responsible starting out and have more clear answer for you. And I think the reason why I keep saying that is because anybody watching this, I kind of want them to, like, if they're considering or anything like that, just think that through. It's like when people don't have tattoos, I tell them, just think about it. Because once you cross that barrier, you're not going back.
Yeah.
And so that's why, it's like.
On that same note, like, who do you think should consider PEDs and who should probably stay away from them, kind of thing? Is it? You mentioned earlier you're not like advocating it.
No. But it does have great benefits, and I'm not going to rack them. If you're a responsible person, you're completely 100% control in your own life. I'm not telling you what to do or what not to do. If in theory I can say who's a good group to go for, and who's a good group to use and who's a good group to not use. If you're a 35-year-old man, it's going to take you back to your youth. It's going to make you feel great again. I think it's really like testosterone in any sense. Like, if they go to a doctor, obviously I'm going to say, go to a doctor, get tested. No. But if testosterone injections for a male in his 30s and above, beautiful work. A guy 17 years old, no, don't do it, dude. You're going to get huge, cool, yeah, but that's where you want to, like, just take it to the limit. Push the weights, push the food, just push for your 20s. I mean, if you guys look at these guys, Lee Priest, a lot of these guys, I know a lot of people don't want to hear it, but a lot of them did what they did in their teens and 20s naturally. They just were freaks of nature. Just see what your genetics are doing for you, then consider it. Women, definitely, I don't think they should not use it. I kind of stand hard on this one. I know there are women that use it. If I'm going to suggest something for women, I would suggest HGH. They suggest a test base with that, which, okay, cool. Like, but I'm very wary about putting women on test. Just because, and it's something that I've been looking into a lot lately, and it's, and with, obviously there's women close to me in the fitness, so I got to look out for their health too. And, there is a time and place for it again, and again, it's their decision. But like I've seen cases where we go back to the irreversible effects. Like if I take testosterone and I take Anavar, which I love Anavar, it's one of the safest steroids out there. The safest steroid out there, actually, let me repeat that. It's the safest steroid out there. It obviously has effects, but I take that, I look and feel great. A lady takes that, they'll look and feel great. But the problem is my side effects, if any, are irreversible. Theirs are permanent. They got body hair, lowered voice, large clitoris, and that's only in some cases. And like, more power to the girl that wants to, enhance their body. I'm not really talking down on it. I'm just suggesting, unless your job, like, I think that's what would be my thing. Unless you have money going on it, unless you want to be competitive, unless it means that much to you, because you are crossing a barrier. And once you cross that barrier, it's a fun barrier to be across, but you can go back. I mean, you can, but it takes years, and you just, once you know what you've had, I think it's, for me,
steroids kind of recommend against women using it because of the androgenic effects.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, and it's a male hormone, and I've seen doctors talk about it, and then like I've seen this, actually. There's this one doctor I follow, Dr. Meg, and she talks with a panel of other females that I think work at hormone replacement treatment facilities. And they talk about like how when they get these women and their test levels are like 200, 250, which is pretty high for a female. And they're like, they got them like young boys in here. And so that's why I was like, oh, wow, maybe they are kind of dosing them a little high, because they're talking about like the correct dosages for women. I was like, okay, well, I think if women are going to take that kind of hormone, I think it needs to be administered by women doctors. I'm not saying that again, back to it. If you're a bodybuilder and you're like, dude, screw you, I'm going to take my stuff, that's cool. But that's my suggestion, because, their side effects are not pretty, I guess I should say.
Are there any misconceptions about steroids that you'd like to, I guess, talk about or maybe clear up for some of the people watching?
That they're bad. They're not bad. I've never seen anyone get aggressive, like overly aggressive, unless it's trend. And when I do, like, again, I think people use it as use the steroid as a clutch, like, oh, I got mad because I want steroids, I just can't control myself. And then I've never felt that. Again, it's just,
when you say they're bad, do you mean like how they affect your personality mostly, or are you talking about like health effects?
Yeah, because see, like the health effects, you can kind of monitor. Like, and I think back in the 90s, the guys were just taking, or even before then, the guys were just taking the stuff, and they didn't know to get regular blood work, or maybe they were, or it wasn't the gym rats. But now we do get regular blood work. I think it's so funny because a lot of us PEDS users, I think we're a lot better than doctors. Because, there's that joke, I don't know if you've seen it with the balloon and the syringe, and the bodybuilder just puts it in all easy.
I just saw that the other day.
Yeah, no, and it kind of goes to that, because we have to do these like self-researches, and it makes us like, and because we want to do this safe and we want to do this smart, because it is something we want to have in longevity, and we're older, we're being smart about it. I hate to get political, but like, this isn't political, but they look at it, there's kind of a double-edged sword with steroids. When there's hormone replacement therapy, and say you're trying to change the gender of somebody, and they give them that hormone, it's almost considered as brave, and it's a safe endeavor. But when a gym rat wants to do it to feel better about himself, it's a deadly illegal drug. So there's kind of a double-edged sword there. It's a double standard that I'm not going to cry about, but I'm just saying, like, for an AIDS or cancer victim, it will do wonders. But then they say for a perfectly healthy male that works out, it's going to kill him. Now, I know there's so many like deaths that have been reported and stuff, and that just comes from the misuse of it. Again, for me, when I said my cycle and stuff, I don't think I'm going anymore. I think that's where I top out, and where I start to really consider where do we go from here? I think everybody needs an end game. There, with the overconsumption of anything, there's risks. And I'm not saying that there's no risk, that steroids are safe and everyone should do them, because we just got done saying, like, well, pretty much no one should do them, but I like them. However, I don't think that when people hear steroid, they think the cheater, they think somebody with an attitude problem, they think, there's just so much stigma that goes behind steroid use. But then if we were to pull open, it's one of those things where education helps. Mm-hmm. And it's like, okay, well, what is steroid? Well, the technical term is a steroid is a synthetic hormone. The steroids that we always keep referring to as steroids is anabolic steroids, is testosterone, and testosterone derived. And so you get some lady that's taking birth control as a steroid for her, whatever, not even just birth control. Some women take birth control to regulate their hormone levels. They're doing the same thing as us. They're regulating hormone levels. We're manipulating ours. Again, at the beginning of this, I said I abuse steroids because I'm not trying to fancy it up and I'm not trying to make it pretty for anyone. I'm just being honest. But I'm also saying abuse is the sense that I'm not going to a doctor because the doctor's not going to be like, here's 750 milligrams of test and here's 600 milligrams of equipoise. Well, have at it. No.
You're still doing it intelligently.
Yeah, I'm doing it intelligently. But in the sense of, I don't want to be like, oh, it's not abuse. It technically is. Like if I was taking Percocets, but it was for my broken leg, but I didn't go to the doctor and I'm abusing Percocets. Same thing. I call it right down the middle, and I just don't want to be like, well, I'm doing it safe, so it's not abuse. I am doing it safe. I think that's why we need to really open up the discussion. And once we have this discussion open up and the regular general public can see that, well, maybe these guys just really just want to do it just to feel better and look better, and they're not really hurting anyone because they have clean needles. Their health is at risk. However, that's up to us. And if this discussion becomes a bigger, more public discussion, then we're able to talk more with healthcare professionals about it and do it more safely. And I'm not saying, oh yeah, maybe one day there'll be a doctor that promotes PEDS use, but there has been, and they've done it illegally. But those athletes were taken care of, though. That's the thing is now if you were to actually allow that doctor to come back into the light and be like, well, there's people that are going to use it regardless. Let me help them get the blood work or help them read their blood work and help them talk dosages. And that is becoming a thing. And I think it's becoming with these discussions and people realizing that more people are on steroids than they realize. And I think that's why we all need to be more open about it. Because everyone just thinks it is the jack dude at the gym, when they don't realize that it could be just that father that is just lost his zing and wanted it back, and now he found the fountain of youth, and yeah.
Do you feel like the PEDs have changed, in your experience at least, have changed how you feel mentally or emotionally at all? Or?
It's made me more cognitively aware of it, more consciously, I should say. Actually, not cognitively. Not in the sense that I see myself getting angry or something, but worried that I will be. I think it was in the beginning. Is it going to change my mood? Is it going to change my? And then when I saw or when I would start getting a little anxious, because there is some that kind of cause a little bit of anxiety, and at first, man, I've been diagnosed with anxiety disorder years prior to this, and I smoke a lot of weed, so that's the other Pete I use. No, really. With that, it just made me more okay, am I depressed? It's just had a lot more self check-ins than I had even before I was Pete using, and I think. Here I am. Well, Pete's made me be more healthy or mental conscious, but really it kind of did, because in a sense, I didn't want to be a snappy person, and I didn't know if it was going to do that to me. So I was like, okay, let's make sure it's not. And if, and really I was like, when I had old feelings come back up, I was like, wait, no, those are just old anxiety feelings. And it's actually helped me learn to cope through them rather than, and that's why I think I think when people snap off on steroids, it's, you know, they like to say if you're an asshole, you'll be a super asshole on steroids. And I think a lot of people use that steroid as a crutch. Like, you know, you just can't be accountable for your own actions. And they just, when they pop off, they're like, oh, the steroids are doing. And I'm like, and, you know, with that thought, a lot of people, including myself when I first started, I was like, well, what if that happens to me? And no, I'm like, no, everything mentally that I feel or kind of mood wise, I'd say is pretty much the same as anyone else. If not, I have a better mood.
Yeah.
Because I have a physique I like. No, but really, I think it's a confidence booster in that sense.
Yeah.
Like, you know, it makes you feel better. You lift better. You know,
You want to be happy with who you look at.
Dude, I'm 39 years old, and the way I look and the way I feel and the way I move, and I see other 39 years old, you know, regardless of if it chemically affects me, I think like steroids chemically affect me in a negative way. I think the positives that I like, I think just if you're a person that's just emotionally aware, I think dudes that pop off when they have steroids in their system, I think they're just emotionally immature, and they just need a clutch to blame it on. They don't realize that. Yeah, dudes get mad. There's been times where, because there's one time I started to get mad when I was like, oh, it's just right here. I just feel like I'm just like pissed off at everything. I'm irritated. Oh. And I was like, no, dude, there's times when I was way before steroids, when I was just a normal, you know, big guy that never went to the gym. There's times where I could say I was irrationally mad. So I'm like, it's just so hard to be on it, because then it's almost like most guys now, I think, are either trying to play the part, like the Trendzilla guy, just, oh, I'm on train, or you got these guys that are like pulling back, like, no, I'm actually a lot better because I don't want to, you know, you got us holding back on emotion, like human emotion, like, and it's like, yeah, no, people are allowed to be mad and upset and angry and irritable, and that's what really made me like realize is like, am I irritable because of this? I'm irritable because of that. Like, oh yeah, no, it's this, but yeah, it really doesn't. And I think in that sense that, okay, no, they're not affecting me if I can have that conversation with myself. So.
And then my last question is in regards to PEDs for you is like, do you think in your experience, have they been addictive at all? Is there like...
Oh, I love this question. No, they're not addicting in the sense of like, does my body need it? Like, do I absolutely, like, if I stop taking it, like, because when I was drinking alcohol, I couldn't stop drinking, because if I stopped, literally was dying.
Yeah.
I would go to the DTs, I would shake, my body became chemically dependent on it. It was disgusting. So is steroids addictive in that sense? No. Are they extremely habit forming? Yes. Some people respond really well. And when the readily availableness of it now, and the selection, oh my God, the selection, like, because you find out this, that's why I didn't want to get too much into like a lot of the compounds, because there's so much out there, and you can fix yourself a little cocktail, and you can be like, well, I want to lose weight, and I want to build up my delts, and I'm going to, you know, and when you have a lot of drugs on you, like, especially like when you're in prep and you're like in a controlled starvation, and the steroids are doing all the work for you, you're like, dang, you kind of see what it does, and you're like, okay, well, what if I did this? What if and then so it gets an addictive mindset like that, like a little habit forming, in the sense that, like, and I think along with the mental disorders we get with just lifting weights, like the body dysmorphia, muscle dysmorphia, what is the new one? I just saw that documentary on it. It's bigorexia or something like that. It's where guys just can't see themselves big enough. They have to be bigger and bigger. And it was a documentary just going over that mental disorder. And I think those mental disorders will pay into the habit and addictive forming of the PEDs. I don't think the PEDs are themselves are addictive. I think the people, the mental disorder and the goals that they want to get to is the addictive part. And I think the knowing of, okay, this, and this will do this for me. And it does. It's like, okay, well, if I take 500 milligrams of testosterone and I feel great and I'm doing this, why not take 750? Why not throw some equipoise on there? Why not, like if that looks good, well, what if I add more?
Yeah.
What if I get some, I got to save up my money and I get some Primobolan, then I'll be taking like the pros. And then if I get some HGH, that's all I need is some, because that's where I'm at. Like, I'm like, oh, well, if I get HGH, but then you realize how much HGH is. You're like, but man, I would look so good if I take HGH. And it's like that stuff. And that's where maybe it might be addicting because like if you're talking to someone, hey, would you spend $150 a month on this? And they're like, no, dude, like on personal training. Would you spend $500 a month on personal training? No. Would you spend $500 a month on a steroid that make you look better and all this? And some people will say no, but like if you've already been using, like, well, yeah, I gotta get bigger.
Yeah.
So it kind of corrupts the mind in that sense. Again, I think that's where we have to have these discussions, and we need to like have that open forum where people are like, okay, you're taking too much, dude. That's too much. You need to back off. You look fine. What you're doing is good. And just have, and I think with a community, and it goes back to questions before even this, when we hype people up, it's like people have to know that they're doing good because we look at ourselves in the mirror and we like you're a power lifter. Numbers don't lie. The iron's never going to lie to you. 420 is 420, and you're not going to be like, did I lift that 420? No, yeah, Adam, you got the 420 up. Like, you did. But like me, there was one time I was training out there. I turned in the mirror and I saw that 286-pound guy, not muscular, not the way I look now. No, nothing. Not even like, just a thing. Like I saw him and I was just like, I paused and I freaked out. And that's when I really got in touch with that, like that mental disorder of it. Like, oh wow, this is real. And again, that's where we have to be open about these discussions and say that, not be like afraid to be like, oh dude, I'm afraid that. Like I make the joke, oh, I'm fat all the time, but then I'll like really sit down with people and it's like, no, it really kind of affects me. And then it leads you to like, okay, well, what will you do if it's constantly obsessing on your mind? What are you going to do? You're going to do some lipo. You're going to do some, you're going to starve yourself. Like, cause then again, that's the addicting thing too. Like it's peds, but it's the vehicle that we think is going to get us what we want. The prize is the addicting thing, I think. Yeah,
that makes sense. Like whenever Mike and I were chatting about it, he was mentioning how it's not addicting like nicotine is addicting.
Yeah,
it's almost kind of addicting like the same way any regular person can get addicted to exercise itself.
Yeah,
and is that kind of what you're mentioning? Kind of like
yeah. Like it's you get addicted to exercise and it's nice and you start seeing results and it makes you want to come back again. Like you get a really good arm pump one day and you're like, I get back tomorrow and I'm going to hit back and it's going to be good. And you're just having really good days. And when you really start seeing the results, it's like, yes, I'm excited to go back. And I think that's what it is. And I think it is just, it plays into a lot of the mental side of it that we see, that we just, the more, and I think, I think a lot of society plays into like, you're upset, take this. You're sad, take this. You can't sleep, take this. If you sleep too much, take this, And I'm not talking bad, like that's why we do steroids, but I think that's with anything, I think like, they did a study on good tasting foods, and they scanned the brain while somebody ate foods they liked, and to see if it released as much dopamine or if it had the same effects of having sex or doing drugs. Turns out it doesn't. That people just get addicted to food because it's tasty. They like it, And then that's probably the same thing with steroids. It's not like, oh, am I addicted to this chemical that's in my body? Do I even know that it's in my body? Am I taking actual steroids, or am I just taking this oil and coming to the gym and going, oh, it's a placebo? I don't think it is, but in the same sense of like, I think it just gives you that feeling that you're doing more and that you're actually doing, I want bigger arms. I want to bulk. I take this. I want to be stronger. I take Anadrol. And if that obsession of me, like say, man, I got to bench 405 by the end of this year. I want to bench I'm starting to think of, and if I'm obsessing over that thought, I'm thinking of any which way to do it. And then when you really start, and then like if you're already on steroids, you're thinking, yeah, dude, steroids have been working for me. I just got to up the dosages. Or, the same with looks. It's like, if I just keep doing this, or if I switch to this cycle, or if I do this drugs, it's going to give me the effect I want. And I think that's, and again, I'm not saying that's a bad thing. Why is that a bad thing? To be the best you want to be, like if you want to go ham, and is it addicting? Like, maybe, but look at Tom Brady, dude. Dude won, 8 Super Bowls, broke records left and right. Wait, was that addicting? Tell him enough? Dude, like, I think, again, it goes back to the safe use, and it's hard to tell if somebody's addicted. Now, if you were to tell somebody, okay, stop taking steroids, is it, again, it goes back to my next point, is it like telling someone, because sometimes I have to tell a client, stop doing so much cardio, and they're like, oh, I gotta lose this weight though. Like, I really gotta lose this weight. I'm like, stop doing so much cardio. And they just can't. Like, and in their mind, they're like, this trainer sucks. He's horrible. Like, but it's like that. And I think that that's addictive in that sense that, like.
Okay. Yeah, that makes sense. And do you have any core training philosophies as both a bodybuilder or a coach?
Yes.
Yes.
The biggest thing you can injure in the gym is your ego. I mean, you can get really bad injuries in here, but the one I've seen that people don't return is when they hurt their ego. I think that's one thing you just got to leave out, and you got to really just be honest with yourself. Core fitness thing is just, you have to be honest with yourself. You have to be honest with yourself where you're at physically, mentally, and what you can do, what you can't do, and what you're going to do. And when you don't have that in a vision, you're going to come in here and you're going to ego lift. You're going to be like, well, I just put more weight. And I don't say this to insult anyone or to criticize anyone, but, when I see people half repping or just put more weight than they think because they think they have to put on this show for everyone around them. And it's like, no, you really just go and focus on you. When I first started, I put, I think, 95 pounds on the barbell for bench press, and I just did them slow and controlled. And for me, I told myself, do not care what other people think. My number one thing was I had to do everything right. It was a strict, sarcastic way. And I noticed the 2 things that hold people back in their fitness journey, diet aside, we're not going to talk diet on this. The 2 things that hold people back on their fitness journey is they had too much weight or not enough, or they have horrible form and posture. And it's just, those are things that they just don't want to address because they want to hit the ground running. I always say, it's like, everybody always wants to act like they're the smartest, but they didn't go to school. It's like, so how do you think you know all this stuff? Like, I don't expect anyone to walk through that door and know everything about the gym or be the strongest person in the world. I just don't expect it. And so that's why I'm like, that's where I say, be honest. You don't have to show off for anyone, and except unless you're Adam, and but you just lift all the weights.
I wish, bro. I wish. Or do you have any go-to exercises you swear by?
RDLs.
Really? Okay.
RDLs, deadlifts. I just decided that RDLs are my favorite. Deadlifts. I don't know, like a go-to exercise. It'd be the squat. Like if somebody told me, like, or the deadlifts, here's the thing. I'll answer it this way. If I could come to the gym and only do one workout for the rest of my life, and you said, what would it be? It'd be the deadlift. Because I feel that works the whole body. Now, my go-to workout for me personally, my favorite split is back. I love working back.
Nice.
So that's my go-to. But
are there any like movements or lifts you think are overrated? Maybe like something that you think that you see
the deadlift. Just kidding.
I was like, wait a minute.
No, actually, no. The bench press. Really? I think too many people put too much emphasis on the bench press and the plate loading shoulder machine. I think that one
Like the kind of the one we have over there. You just sit there, load the plates on
load
each
the
side.
plates. One thing I see a lot of guys do, or girls, whoever, people, they slam the weight, their seat all the way to the ground. That decreases your range of motion, and then they load up the plates. They think they have to put 4 to 5 plates on each side and hurl through like 5 inches of just, I don't know what's that. Like, that's what I'm saying. Be honest with yourself. What are you trying to do here? Like, are you trying to show me that you, because me, professionally, I'm looking at you and be like, dude, take half that weight off and go up and do a full. So,
on that same note, I see people occasionally. It's not like, I mean, they do what they want to do.
Yeah, do what you do. But.
Yeah, but it's like I notice sometimes there'll be like the struggle on the very first one, and then after that, it's like they'll ref them out, but it's kind of like
it's the and I'm like, when I see people do that at 4 a.m. in the morning, because I get here about 4:30, 5 a.m. in the morning, and I see people come in and I do that, I'm like, your ass woke up at 4 o'clock in the morning, got your ass ready to the gym, did a bunch of stuff people don't want to do, like drive to the gym, walked to the gym, got some weights, and did some half-ass reps. What? Like, and and that's, again, it's not to insult or criticize it, it's just to wake people up. Like, dude, full ROM. Like, if you can't do full ROM, back the weight up. Because I've heard people say, well, I can't do full range of motion. Well, that's because you have too much weight to do full range of motion. And that's why I like the bench press. Okay, cool. Like, I get it. It's every bro's workout. Everyone wants to know how much you bench. I have a weak bench, so that's probably why I'm not liking it. If I had a heavy bench, I'd probably be like, yeah, dude, bench press is the best. Deadlifts suck. But no, deadlifts are better. But anyways, yeah, no, there's no functionality with the bench press that I can't get from the chest press machine, that I can't get from dumbbell presses. I think a lot of people put too much emphasis on that when they come in the gym.
That makes sense. And now onto the nutritional and prep for the bodybuilding.
This is where we lose the audience.
What does a typical day of eating look like for you when you're on prep versus when you're on the off season?
Pretty much the same. I wake up, I've had the same breakfast for the past 5 years. It's egg whites, some eggs, oatmeal. The protein pretty much has stayed static. So meaning I keep the eggs, all the portions of my protein the same. The only thing that fluctuates is my carb. But yeah, it's that. Pre-workout is cream of rice, some protein powder in that. That's my pre-workout. Delicious. If you're on prep, that's your saving grace. That's the meal you're looking forward to. It's like, it makes like this nice little sludge. So good, sweet meal you have. Then I have 2 chicken meals and a beef meal. Again, the carbs, so now prep, the carbs are around 100 to 150 grams a meal. If that, it will cycle a little lower. It depends on what how the pictures and how the progress is going. Right now, I'm just leaving off season, so my diet's tightening up again. But it was still during off season. It was still pretty much the same meals. Same amount of protein and everything. The only thing that was kind of different is I had my fun like meals, like sweets, and the weekends we'd go and, like, me and my girlfriend say, eat like normal people. We'd go to McDonald's or just some fast food or whatever we felt like eating. We were having Reese's cups, candy, chocolate bars, just stuff like that. I was still kind of, and so what that did for me, when I say that, guys are like, oh, you eat chocolate bars, I can do that. I look like, no. The reason why I did that is, so the meals that I had put me in a slight deficit. And what I'm doing with those is I'm going into a slight surplus. And it was taking me typically around 3,500 calories a day. Some days I just blow the roof off that. But, I mean, I was just basically managing my weight, and that's it's just the same. Just, it just comes in phases, and I carb cycle. So really my diet doesn't change up much. I kind of just work in stuff when I want to.
On that same note, do you have any go-to meal hacks or recipes for cuts or bulks? Like, would you say that cream of rice with a protein powder in it's kind of like a little...
That's kind of a hack and a half. The one thing I tell people, and I know people do overnight oats differently than when I do them. the way I do overnight oats, I do my weighed out oats. I'll use my measurements. This isn't for anyone, but like 60 grams of oats, the 2 scoops of protein. Then I mix water into that, and then some frozen berries, some cinnamon. Cinnamon's key. You mix that, let that sit in the fridge overnight. Happily named overnight oats. I know a lot of people like to use Greek yogurt, fresh fruit. That's cool. I just like a little bit more protein. This one's a little bit more sweet. It's a little bit more tasty because you can use, I don't have them here, but Black Magic has so many good ones. I used this one from Evagen. It was a banana cream pie powder that literally tastes like banana pudding. And you throw some almonds in there. So good. So that's pretty much my hack is the overnight oats. Because with that,
You can come in.
come on in. With the oats, totally naked for you. Yeah, no, but with the oats, you can kind of just take those and just roll with them, go with them anywhere. A lot of people use them for breakfast, pre-workout when they need it. Just take it to work, or it comes in handy when you don't feel like eating breakfast. It comes in handy when you're in a pinch and you need to grab something quick and eat. If y'all didn't see that, sexy Mike Storms.
Yeah, the
legend. Living goat.
If you had to put a percentage on it, how much of your progress would you credit to the nutrition and how much of it would be to the exercise? I know it's kind of a silly question because you need both kind of thing, but...
So you know what? That's when we're going to go back to the peas, because back when you first asked it, that's what I wanted to do is say, like, I don't know, because I've been pretty on my nutrition. Like, it's one thing that I pride myself in is my discipline to nutrition. Like, yeah, I do eat regular foods like everyone else, but like my diet is pretty much on when I want it to be, and when I'm ready, when I'm doing it. Like even now, I think my dedication to the diet is a lot more. So that's why when I say, like, in retrospect to the peas use, I don't regret it at all whatsoever. I love using steroids, but I really don't. But but going back to it in retrospect, and if I can get another person maybe on it, but like I would love to see where food could have took me if I could maybe eat like Jay Cutler. I don't know if you ever heard the way he said he. You have to be a millionaire to eat like him, but he was eating like 400, 500 grams of protein, 600 grams of carbs. He was just eating monsterly, and that's what these people don't get. Is a lot of people think, okay, steroids. That guy's big, steroids, and really, diet, man. I tell guys all the time. You sit on a good diet for 8 weeks, people are going to ask you what you're taking. They're going to ask you what you're on. They're not going to ask you about, they might, like people ask me for core workouts. And to be honest, I don't do core workouts. The only core workouts I do is bent over rows or squats or deadlifts, but I don't even deadlift anymore. I do isometrics every once in a while. Here now in this off season, I've incorporated, abs just to see what it'd be like if I actually started working them. But the first time I ever saw my abs was when I really tuned in my diet. First time one of my clients, she was running 5K every day. She was doing Nordic track type workouts with trainers all the time, starving herself, eating Lunchables, all this crap. And then finally, when she switched to my diet, within 2 weeks, she started seeing visible lines of abs. 12 weeks in, and she's doing a bodybuilding show. Like, it was food, because she was a natural competitor. It's food. Like, for me, I could tell you, I can write on a piece of paper for workouts for you to do. If you're like, hey, Will, I want to get jacked and shredded and have some muscle, show off some biceps for the summer. Okay, cool. Here's a basic ass workout. Now go eat right.
Yeah.
Like, that's my problem. Like, and that's where I lose everyone. That's why I made the joke. Okay, here's where we lose the audience. Because, people will come up to me and they'll be like, hey, Will, can you, what's a good workout I could do for this? I'm like, yeah, the same one you've been doing. I'm sorry, dude. Like, workout takes consistency, and like, I think a lot of people want to switch workouts. They think muscle confusion's a thing. They're constantly switching. And when you tell somebody it's the consistency, it's the same. I've been doing, like, if I were to write you out my workout, you'd be like, dude, this is a boring workout. Like, you build muscle off this, really, Will? Like, really? And I'll be like, yeah, it's all in the variables. It's all in the food. It's all in the plan of attack. It's not the workout. It's really, like, I can write anyone the program, and their approach to it speaks volume. And then the food is going to reveal it. Like it really doesn't. I don't know. There are some people that can genetically come in here. Don't get me wrong, and they can work out and they look great. And there's some people that can just take peds and not even eat right or work out and build. But unfortunately, a lot of us aren't those people. Mm-hmm. And, you know, so when somebody comes to me like, well, I've been doing this for my abs. I've been doing this and that. What else can I do? And I'm like, dude, this is where you're going to get mad at me because I'm going to tell you it's your diet. And they're like, oh, well, you know, but I've been doing this. And like, oh, well, you know, I know. And it's like, and I think what blinds them too is that they think it's a lot harder than it really is. You know, a lot of people want to go and think that they do have to eat the bland chicken and rice. Here goes to my another one of my meal prep hacks. Because one thing I started to notice on Instagram is I'm kind of gaining the guy that meal preps. You know, they're like, oh, not the meal prep, because I made that little action figure and it came with the meal prep. Like, oh, the meal prep. My meal prep hack is I season the crap out of my chicken and I know how to cook chicken. I cook good chicken. Like, yeah, you know, when people say I don't like to eat, I was like, you don't have to eat bad food. You cook good chicken. The beef we cook is good. Dude, we found out that these great value Neapolitan ice cream sandwiches, we got 150 calories, has the same amount of carbs as the cream of rice or English muffins. So we're like, hey, look, we can have this every once in a while. Not in a prep, but like, so I think people just think that, you know, they can't have certain things, and it really comes into just make good chicken.
Yeah,
make good food.
Season it. Yeah,
make good food. Learn how to cook. That's my meal prep tactic. Is like, you know, I think that's what really helped me is because I was really into grilling and I really like to do chef type stuff, so that's what really made it easier to build.
If you had to put like I know the numbers they're completely made up, fabricated, but if you had to put a number on the nutrition versus the exercise itself, what percentages, I guess, would you put on them each?
90-10.
90-10. 90 nutrition, 10%.
Okay, so I'm going to put it like it's hard to say, because if you're a person, like say you're a 35-year-old guy and you have an extra belly and you're like, man, I want to lose 25 pounds. You know, I tell them, dude, all you have to do is check in on your nutrition, put yourself in a slight deficit, and go for a walk. And you're going to watch that dude just start dropping weight.
You're right, yeah.
You see that guy, if he starts really lifting weights and running and taking it really serious, you're going to see it skyrocket. I digress. But if I were to tell that to like a middle-aged female, I'm not saying she'd have to go run marathons. I'm just saying, you know, sometimes their metabolism needs to be sped up with a good brisk walk or two, or they do need to get some exercise because, you know, like me, I can go and eat like trash. Me and Mike, we can eat like trash and still look like this because we have a lot of muscle mass. An older lady or somebody who doesn't have that much muscle mass, they can't consume that much calories yet. And so, you know, a lot of it is going to be building muscle. A lot of it is going to be revamping a metabolism, and that's whatever the approach is to it. So sometimes, you know, it's not the food.
And what's your approach to recovery? Do you like track your sleep, like meditate, go on walks, anything like that?
I don't necessarily track my sleep like with an app or anything. I do try to get adequate sleep. You know, now that you bring that up, I don't think I do take adequate. For me personally, I'm being hypocritical because I don't think I take good. I take good recovery. I was working out 6 days a week. Now it's only 5. I do 3 on, 1 off, 2 on, 1 off.
Okay.
I'm thinking about adding the other one in because I feel good after doing that. I was doing 2 leg days and I was just taxed. So that's kind of how I play it. You know, just right before I start feeling or to prevent injuries, that's the number one thing is I take a rest. More for clients though, I'm more strict about rest. Recovery and rest is, you know, I'd advocate that more than an exercise. If a client comes to me, again, going back to diet and exercise, if they say, dude, I've been eating good today, I'm just super exhausted, I did not sleep well, I'm like, we're not working out, go home and go to sleep.
Okay.
And sometimes you can get away with a workout like that, but if they're just exhausted and they did not get sleep that night, or they're not going to get sleep the night or following, I'll prioritize nutrition and and recovery and sleep. Yeah, I think like we can always, our bodies move. We can always when we talk about exercise, we got a spectrum of going from a small walk to deadlifting, and everything in between. So like exercise is important, but it's not as important as rest and nutrition. Because without rest and nutrition, the exercise is just going to damage your body.
Yeah. Okay.
And
That's a fair point.
and so I do like, okay, yeah, I'm not saying do not exercise, but if I'm putting like, okay, recovery and nutrition on a scale, I'm putting nutrition, recovery, and then exercises. Because I mean, what are the exercises if we're not adequately feeling them?
Yeah. And outside of training, how do you stay grounded? Like, what's your life like outside the gym? Like it's kind of a weird question, I guess.
No, it's not. And this is like kind of the funny thing is because like this is where I think I get everyone, and it's like I'm pretty much just my life. I'm boring. I guess for lack of better terms, I'm a pothead. I alluded that to being my PED, but that's kind of one of my other hobbies. I know people are like, "What? Marijuana can't be your hobby." I like to grow. I like the properties of marijuana. When I quit drinking before I got into fitness, I got into medical marijuana here, and that's something I just advocate for, especially going back into fitness. I do advocate for it in fitness. Other than that, like my life's real boring. We keep it that way for purpose. We're just two easygoing people, and got my dogs. They're like a majority of my life, and just really fitness is life. And anytime anyone ever asks me what do I do for a living, I'm like, watch fitness videos. And they're like, well, no, but other than that, work out. And they're like, no, meal prep. I don't know. What are you asking me? No, and it really is like I think that's probably where because like if bodybuilders were either eating, sleeping, or working out, like I if I'm not working or working on client stuff or just doing chores around the house, I'm resting. I'm not to say I'm a lazy dude, but like it kind of comes with the territory. And
how many dogs do you have?
Two.
Okay.
I have my little dachshund Sammy, and then I have my shadow shepherd Winchester. He did this whole AI thing and made him superheroes, and they named him Shadow Shepherd, so we call him that now. He's a shepherd cross. But yeah, got those two guys. So yeah, that's pretty much just the fun of it all.
And what's been the hardest part of your fitness journey, would you say?
Hardest part is the same as everyone else. It's just finding reasons to keep going. Okay. We make this joke that like, oh, you got the body, you graduated the gym, you did enough, leave, you can quit now. But it's hard to, I mentioned end game with the peds, but I think I always talk this with my girlfriend, and I'm like, there has to be an end game to bodybuilding. If I decide to go the rest of my life being a bodybuilder, that's one thing, but as far as like the hardness of fitness is just finding something to keep going. Because when you reach, and this is it's when you reach any goal, you reach that pinnacle. It's like, okay, what now? And you always have to have an answer for that. And I think a lot of times for me, it's like bodybuilding, there's no real glory in it. There's no payouts unless you go pro, unless you get that that Instagram, you become an influencer and it starts paying. There's really no beneficial properties to being a bodybuilder other than the aesthetic look of it all and everything. So you got to figure out like what's that for you. Because for me, sometimes there's times where you just like, why am I doing this? Why am I doing this to myself? For what reason? So I look good? Like, and like sometimes you're like, is that the right answer? Like, and then so you got to dive deeper. And I think, and it sounds like it's a bodybuilding issue, but really I think it's an issue for a lot of people that come to the gym. you hit a certain point and you're like, well, I'm happy where I'm at.
Yeah.
Why keep going? Or like, I really was kind of happy where I was. And I'm not trying to advocate against fitness either now. Like, now at 67, like, if you're good where you're at, don't come to the gym. But really, like, you got to figure out what means what to you. And because, like, again, I like to say, it kind of, to bring this all back around, a lot of people think I have an athletic background, that I'm loving fitness, and there's more times than not that I'm out there and I'm like, do not want to be doing that. I know what I could rather be doing than spending 2 hours in the gym, spending meal prep time, and I think about it, I'm like, why am I doing this for bodybuilding? And again, for a regular person, you don't, it's not that, but what my point is what people think I'm like, I love this, but it's also hard for me as well to come and do the same thing. I wake up every morning and have the same thought in my head. Like, I was having this conversation with a client the other day, and he was like, I thought waking up this early would get easier. I was like, it doesn't, but you keep reminding yourself why you're doing it. Because, like for me, a lot of people think I come here because I'm addicted to it, and I might be. But it was just as hard starting out for me as every other person. It was hard as process for every other person. I don't want to pat myself on the back of, well, I just did it. No, it was rough. The whole thing, everything that everyone feels, waking up, meal prepping, missing out on like certain things because, well, I would have done this, that, like, I'm not saying you can't eat certain foods, but you know what I mean. Like some social events you miss out on, or certain things are painful, and fitness is not easy for anyone, I don't think. I think we're just driven by goals, and so the hardest part about my fitness is staying at it. And I think that that's the most rewarding thing about my fitness, is the fact that I did stay with it. It's work, it's hard work, and
that's interesting. The hardest part is also the most rewarding, but that's
yeah, because at the end of the day, because you see, like, for me, it was always like, because I kept it to myself, I'd be like, okay, this sucks, but I'm just gonna keep doing it. But then somebody would also I didn't do this because this was too hard. I was like, well, I thought that was hard, but I kept going. And then I was like, and again, I'm not doing this like, I'm better than anyone, but it in that sense, it was like, okay, that challenge is done. Then it became addicting to the challenges, like, but it is challenging. And then I just remind myself, like, it's that challenge. And then after a while, when people said, oh man, you're so disciplined, I'm like, am I really though? I didn't think I was disciplined. I was just doing something I thought I had to do. And I guess that's the definition of discipline. but yeah, no, really, like, when people start complimenting and like that's discipline. Oh, you mean I have self-control, and like I'm supposed to. And
do you think that discipline translates to outside the gym?
Almost definitely. I love to romanticize the gym in the sense that, like, it's the only thing in life that's really going to teach you what you put in is what you're going to get out, because everyone fakes everything. One of the things I get some backlash for is saying when I accuse people of faking fitness, and I'm like, because fitness is one thing you can't fake. Either you do it or you don't, or you say you're doing it and the results come or go. And I think once you learn the challenges, and you're like, okay, this sucks. I did not like, dude, I hated doing hack squats. I absolutely hated them. But when I told myself, I was like, nope, you have to do them. Anytime I said I hated doing something, I had to get better at it, because that means I didn't like it because I didn't know how to do it good. I didn't look good doing it. I didn't feel good doing it. And that was no excuse not to do it. And so I just did it. And then so when it translates to the outside, it's like I started getting instructions to do stuff. I'm like, okay, and usually, like, and I see this a lot of times. People will be like, well, I'll do this. And they do it with fitness and they do it with regular life. I'll do this. I don't like the way that goes, so I won't do that. Do this. And they get there and they don't get a complete project. And it's like, well, and they got this excuse, well, I did it for them. And they're full of excuses rather than just do it. Mm-hmm. Just put your head down and do it. Like fitness, like it's like Yoda said, either do or do not. There is no try. Like, I said that backwards, but it really is that thing. You can't, a lot of people time, and you're going to see this as a trainer, man. People will say, yes, I am trying. I'm trying. It's like, you're intenting. You're telling me what your intent is. If you were trying, you would actually be doing. Like, if you're going to eat healthy, it's not like if I'm trying to like make a basket, well, I'm not going to make a basket just by trying. Of course I have to, but when it comes to eating stuff, putting stuff in my body, like, there's no lying about that. There's no other way. Even if it is hard, even if like, oh, but I love McDonald's so much, but I have to eat this, you can still do it. Like, there's still doing. And that's why I say to the translation of life, like, you could try to sweep as much as you want on the rug, but you know what you're doing, you know what you're not doing. And I think fitness, once it shows you like what is possible by actually completing the steps you don't want to do, like, because for me, I think that's what it was I had gone to the gym. I was one of those guys that went to the gym 5 days a week, 6 days a week, and I wouldn't eat right, but I thought I was doing right. But I was quarter repping, I was ego lifting, but I was going to the gym, right? Why didn't I look the way I wanted to do? I was doing this, but I didn't want to add in the two things. I didn't want to add in like proper form and programming, and I didn't want to do a diet. But years later, when I finally incorporated the things I didn't want to do, everything I wanted to have happen happened. Nice. So when you see that happen, I think that correlates in life. And I know I've had other clients talk to me about this when they're like, yeah, I was doing this, and I was like, but I'm not going to stop. It sucks, but I'm not going to stop. And they got it, and they're like, dude, I did something I never thought I would do. And that's what I love about fitness is I always get clients to do things they never thought they were going to do in a good way. But no, but really, like, I challenge them because I say this isn't just, getting your body right. Once you challenge yourself and you really get uncomfortable here, there's not a lot out there that is not going to not be so challenging. You learn that it really is a lot in your head. A lot of what your suffering is in your head, and like 10% of what you're doing. So I think that's why it completely laterals to the everyday life. And I really think, like, more successful people know that exercise leads to more success, or just harnesses it. It reinforces it because it's reinforcing this discipline that, okay, discipline is a muscle. Like, I build out my biceps, we build out our back here. Well, if we don't just have a strong bicep and a strong back in the gym, now we go out there and we go to pull something up, or, deadlifting, you go to lift something up. You're just naturally better at it. It's just like discipline. You're disciplined with the gym, you're disciplined with your diet, disciplined with coming and all that stuff. Then now that discipline just doesn't go away. Like, it's now there. I think even on I'm gonna start rambling here real quick, but on a David Goggins and Huberman podcast that I saw, they talked about I forgot what it was, this left something cortex, but in that they found that the will, that's actually where willpower lives, that it can actually be something that you develop and harness and grow. That when you do something that you don't want to do, and it's not like, oh, did I do more weight at the gym? But it's like when you really do something that you just don't want to do, like, okay, you're going to go clean like the garage and it's dirty and you just don't want to do it, but you get up, don't give yourself time to think about it. You get up and do it. It builds that cortex a little bit bigger. They found that with obese people, it was smaller, and that people that live longer, successful lives, it was largest. So they do feel that there's a correlation between forcing yourself to do something you don't want to do and growing this essential willpower muscle. And I think that's where the gym is great for practicing that.
Yeah, okay. And I don't want to take up too much more of your time, but I got a little rapid fire closer here.
Go for it.
Gym pet peeve. Do you got one?
People in the gym. Don't come to the gym. Just kidding. No. I think, okay, first one is trash on the floor. I don't understand trash on any floor anywhere. It doesn't happen much here anymore, but I think, that'd be that. Talking. talking, I think, is probably going to be my number one. You can have social conversations. Yeah, cool. Talk to people. But there's people, for some reason, it's the leg extension. I don't know why. Everywhere gym you go to, the person's on a leg extension for half an hour to an hour, and it's like a cool, comfortable recliner. They're talking. They're on their phone. It's just, it's not a social hour. And I've met my best friends here. I've met my girlfriend here. Obviously, I'm social here. But I think, there is a time and place for it, and I think we need to be more common in it. Also, using benches as tables if you're not going to use the bench. Because people naturally are going to not walk over and be like, oh, well, I was going to use that bench, but somebody might be on it when you're really just standing next to it. And it makes for an uncomfortable conversation. And because you're like, are you actually using the bench, or are you just using the bench? After most of the time they're like, get their stuff kind of angry, or make it kind of like you inconvenience. And you don't really want to stop anyone from working out. But I think those are my biggest ones.
Okay, cool. And is there any maybe a most underrated piece of advice for getting jacked?
Nutrition.
Nutrition. I knew you were going to say it. Nice.
Nutrition. I really just don't think people, and boring. I really think people, what the internet ruined for us is we got a lot of influencers and a lot of personal trainers online trying to, show their knowledge, and they come up with all these new exercises or show you this one wild exercise when really the basics takes it.
Yeah.
You come in here, you do a simple push-pull legs program with the most basic exercises that are laid out already for you there. You can, with Chat GPT, dude, I hate to kill us as personal trainers, but you can lay out you can have him print you out a basic program. And I think basics, I don't think a lot of people want to do the basic stuff. I think they think there's a shiny new object out there that will get them better results, and in the end, we always circle back to that. And I think just cut out the middleman, go with the basics. Basics and nutrition. If you think it's too simple, it's working. I've been doing the same exercises for months now. I don't switch up my exercises. Again, I said they're boring. There's nothing special or new about my exercises. So yeah, I think the underrated is just keep it simple.
And this might tie into that same question, but if your younger self was here today, what's one piece of advice you'd give them?
Do not worry about what anyone thinks. I think that's where the ego lifting came in. I would go in. I thought everyone was watching what I was doing and wanting to see how much weight I can lift, and that was absolute crap. No one cared. I wish I would have went in, humbled myself like I did when I walked to Mike. I think an issue is we just don't want to ask for direction, and that was my issue. I wish I would have sat down with somebody older that, find somebody who was jacked, not just somebody who was in the weight room, but looked at somebody who obviously knew what they're doing, like Mike, and be like, what do I do here? Please be honest. What do I do? And they say,